Welcome Munib Gambino and welcome Riyadh Peters. I hope it's been a good start to the year.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It has been.
I mean, like literally, the 2nd of January would have determined that. Was it good to be back on the streets of Cape Town after COVID?
Absolutely, Clarence. It was a difficult build-up to the 2nd, with the post-COVID challenges. Of course, many troops couldn't manage to resuscitate their troops within the communities, and we as an association had a particular challenge, of course, to ensure that there's enough troops who can participate in this year's event. And then secondly, hosting the event, because then that in itself is a major logistical challenge. But suffice to say, I think with the team and with our partners and so for the city of Cape Town, we've managed to pull off what was probably one of the most successful Tweede Nuwe Jaar jolts in the city.
I want to stay with you for a second, Munib Gambino. Your family, you're the third generation of leaders in the clubs that have come through your family. Just tell us about that history.
Essentially, yes. So my dad grew up in Harfield, pre-Group Areas Act.
And then he was chucked out.
And as I understand things, my grandfather played the violin in the Christmas bands and in the klopse. My dad, when they moved out to the Cape Flats, of course, started his own minstrel troupe and his Malay choir at a very young age. And fully immersed himself in this culture. He then became not only a coach and a leader, but also a major proponent of this cultural expression. So much so that whilst growing up, we've, as a family and as a team, we've taken many aspirant musicians and singers abroad to expose them to international audiences. But more fundamentally, until his death in March, last year, he was just a living sort of expression of this carnival. It coursed through his veins. And of course, it's incumbent on me to continue.
Yeah, very incumbent on you to continue, given that rich history of association. You call it a cultural expression, Munib. Talk to us about this cultural expression. What are you expressing?
Look, it's multifaceted. When we have regard to the history of this carnival, we understand that firstly, the celebration on the 2nd of January has its genesis in our ancestors either being granted a day off or taking a day off, or being granted some sort of latitude on the day to also celebrate the start of this new year. The carnival itself started in the early 1900s after these American minstrel troops visited Cape Town shores, and formal carnival together with the city of Cape Town started in 1907. And what we see today, the colourful outfits and the face painting and so forth, really finds its roots in that part of the history of carnival, not necessarily on the basis of the celebration of Tweede Nuwe Jaar during slavery, if you want to call it that. And of course, carnival has evolved. At the beginning, we understand that we had mostly families that formed klopse or clubs as we know it. Sort of the term klopse is a derivative of that, and Afrikaans, Afrikaapse, a derivative of that particular English term. And it was an expression for these family units and broader family units to come out onto the streets and sing their Guma liedjies and perform on the Guma as we know it, and banjos and so forth. And when you fast forward into contemporary carnival, we have a type of dance and movement and music that is more akin to what you probably see with the American brass bands, the marching brass bands, but for the fact that we've got a fusion again. And that is what this carnival is all about. It's a very unique sound. It's a Creole carnival. There's a fusion of the Guma beat together with this brass beats and so forth. And quite frankly, it's absolutely unique in the world.
I like the words that you're choosing, Creole. And we're going to come back, and I think we should have courageous conversations about it if you don't mind. I think we need to ask those very difficult questions, since both of you are a new generation of leaders in this carnival. So we must go there. We must take back this history and keep it good and wholesome for posterity, for the future as well. I want to just turn to you. We have Riyadh Peters, Chairman and Event Director. It's a huge logistical feat, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about what it entails. Loads of buses moving tens of thousands of people.
And that's only on the troop front, Clarence. There's a team behind not only Tweede Nuwe Jaar, but the Athlone Stadium events as well, which are 5 different events where we do the Karel competition, or the Klopse competition, as everyone knows. The team alone on the ground on Tweede Nuwe Jaar, if you want to count security alone, we had close on 700 security alone. So just logistically trying to put all of those pieces together, security, medics, traffic, police, marshals, branding and setup teams, and alone event staff that makes this thing come to life for Cape Town. It was, as a young professional, it was quite interesting to watch, number one, and be a part of. Number two, also a very daunting task to ensure that it runs 100% smoothly. And I don't think in the events industry any event went 100% smoothly. And our aim is to try and get it as close as possible to that. And I think this year I stood for a second on top of the City Hall, and I looked down at the precinct, not only the Grand Parade, but also the footprint down towards Adley Street and towards Kaisergracht or Salauri Road, the entrance. And I think this year, I joined Munib in 2016. I think this year, for the first time, you can actually see aesthetically how this thing is becoming what it should be.
Well, if you got that VIP vantage point, somebody's right here. Can you please make way with a gazebo? 2 people sitting under the gazebo. There's no space for us to see the minstrels. The gazebo took all the space. The minstrels were beautiful. But it is an absolute spectacle, that road full of colourful colours.
100%, it is. The Saturn, I call it the Saturn Ocean. Once that thing gets going, there is no way you're stopping that tide. Yeah. Unless they decide themselves that the waves are done and they're going to stop. But once that Saturn Ocean starts running through the footprint from Kaisergracht all the way up into the Boekap, like Munib says, it's an open tap, and we have to wait until that water fizzles out all the way at the end of the footprint. So it's a spectacle, 100%.
I think a lot of people don't understand, because here's a question in, when do you start organizing for 2024? And I want to get to that as well. But it's organic, man. It is like, it's like bottom up. These are people that look for, it's probably their moment, and it probably is pulsating in their veins, that kind of DNA. It is historically, like many other cultures, like Munib had alluded to, a typical New Year kind of celebration. It's death of the old and birth of the new. A hope for freedom it was for our slave forefathers that were brought to this particular city in chains. It cannot be stopped when it is bottom up in this manner. It can't. And it also change and trying to evolve and turn this thing into something greater than what it has been, and make it the best it could be for whoever's coming ahead in the future to run with this. It's not going to happen overnight. It's been 6-7 years now, bar the COVID years that we didn't have Carnival. And slowly we are changing and fixing and adding things that is making it better. But I don't think it's going to be a wink of an eye that's going to turn this thing into what I believe, and everyone believes that the potential is there for this thing. Like one of my friends was saying to me last night on the beach, why does nobody win a Sama for best comic or best arrangement in a Afrikaans combined goes to whoever, Clarence from Manenberg Superstars, or these are things that you should do.
100%.
We shouldn't wait for other people to do that.
100%,
you should own that.
100%.
But I wanted to ask you. You spoke about the city of Cape Town as being a partner, and I like that. It sounds, just from hearing you, that they are really understanding the value of this particular event, the value to the people of this particular city. They have played, City of Cape Town, provincial government and national government have played political games with this carnival. They've offered a lot of money for votes in the past. They need to commit to this cultural festival resolutely, because it has that organic kind of history long before their political objectives were important to them. Is it that they're seizing upon, not the vote of the contestants or participants, but that this needs to be, because this is an important moment in history?
Politically, I'm afraid to comment on anything. When I watch the world engage with us, and specifically people with political I don't know what agendas. Definitely they are not focused on making the carnival and competition and everything about the Kaapse Klopse work perfectly for the people. They do see some type of
Political benefit.
for themselves. Munib, I'm going to ask you to comment on politics.
There's more that I want to ask Munib. In fact, you represent the Kaapse Klopse Carnival Association. There are quite a couple of associations. Why is there so very many? How did that come about? And because that shouldn't be. This is one thing, is it not?
Correct.
Is it the strong people that have always owned, or for too long maybe even have owned Carnival?
There's always been very many associations or single organizers of the event. If you look at the 1970s, the 1960s, the 1980s up to 1990s, you had what they called promoters, and these guys essentially proclaimed ownership over whatever event they had, either at Hartleyvale or Greenpoint Stadium or wherever else. That then evolved into a situation where one particular minstrel association started, and I dare say, monopolizing the carnival, proclaiming exactly that ownership over the carnival. And this carnival can't
Nobody can own it. It's owned by the people.
It's owned by the
But
people.
strong men have owned it in the recent past.
Indeed. And unfortunately, many of those strong men, you ask the political question, they bow down to political patronage because, how
That's
these
a very
things work.
brave answer.
Indeed, that is what it is. We should call it what it is. In
Because
2017,
it taints the festival itself. It taints the carnival.
correct. In 2017, when we started organizing the carnival, particularly with the inclusion of new leadership, we came out and we made very strong statements about ownership, about keeping the carnival politically agnostic, religiously agnostic, and so forth. And unfortunately, people don't like that because it takes ostensible power away from them.
Takes the power away. But you young guys, you come with a fresh energy. Are you gonna make a play for unity on different terms?
I think the carnival will dictate the tempo of that. Our attitude is that we use the carnival to unify the people of Cape Town. It's a massive social cohesion driver. And as much as we promoting that narrative, for those people who proclaimed ownership before to come to the party and understand that the carnival is in a space where the people rightfully owns and they are expressing their views and their wants and their needs of carnival. It's not for us to dictate to them. People must come to the table and have a discussion, and carnival people must also understand that those who see the numbers at the stadiums and those who see the numbers on Tweede Nuwe Jaar will always come forward and try and manipulate the carnival into a political space, and we shouldn't allow that. We can't allow it. Not if we are to achieve the objectives that we want to achieve for the people of Carnival. I'm
chatting with Munib Gambino. He's the chairperson of the Kaapse Klopse Carnival Association. Also the chairman and event director, Riyad Peters, with us as well. Is there an appetite for toenadering between the various associations, or nothing at all?
There's always an appetite, Clarence. I mean, I will talk you through the recent attempts to unify. I mean, we have open discussions with particularly the Cape Town Minstrel Carnival Association, but I don't necessarily think that they have quite taken the turn on the majority view at the moment, and that again is that Carnival cannot regress into a position where one or two people control Carnival. It simply cannot. Furthermore, just on simple issues like safety and security, when we talk about issues on the Cape Flats, we know that drug abuse and alcohol abuse is a massive
gangsterism.
And gangsterism is a massive factor in contributing to the issues that we had in Carnival. We, for instance, did a very simple thing to clean up Carnival. We took away the sale of liquor at our events, and the consequence of that is, for the last few years, we've had no major incidents. Now, it doesn't necessarily take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but people don't like that. They still want that, because it drives sales. It sort of It's a revenue driver for certain people and so on.
I got you.
The question is, how much do we care for our people, and how much does that influence our views on what Carnival should look like and feel like?
The reality is that Carnival historically has also been a means for people to escape the grip of drugs and gangsterism. Young people have found their talent and have gone on to be great musicians, or found a confidence that manifested in other professional kind of spheres. And then there's also historically been that relationship with gangs and drugs. So Carnival can be used to nearly in a good way deal with the social ills that are pervasive on the Cape Flats. Are you seizing that opportunity as an association?
We're absolutely doing that. I mean, this partnership that we have with Hollywood Bets now is essentially premised on unlocking the opportunities that can be supportive of changing the situation of people on the Cape Flats. For argument's sake, we are busy discussing relaunching the music schools on the Cape Flats that we had as an association a good couple of years ago, but for the lack of resources we couldn't really continue in the vein that we did. But those kinds of discussions are happening, and we're targeting the youth in particular. Get them into these schools, get tutors from the universities, teach these kids, and hopefully with us in the same spaces at the same time, we can also potentially positively influence them. I think we're all young enough for the youth to still listen to us. The older leaders have perhaps lost that opportunity.
I want to just come back to just some of the actual organisation thereof, but just a couple of messages quickly. Open a Klopse account into which we can contribute. Very interesting history. I love that. Politically and religiously agnostic. I like that too. I wanted to ask you, because I'm always amazed at some of the toppies, man, and their energy. But I also see that there's a steady stream of young people coming through. And I want you to confirm that, Nearly. I'm going to be disappointed if you can't, Riyadh. Are young people embracing Carnival still to the extent that they did in the past?
100%, and that's two-sided actually. There's a good and a bad to that, and I don't know if it's bad, but maybe just different, Clarence, because this new group of people, cultures, people change, people live a life and die, and society changes, and because of the people that change, things that they enjoy change. Music they like listening to, for one, changes, and that's starting to influence what
no, not Drake, please.
It could be Drake. It's a host of whatever it is that the genres they like. But whatever it is, it's starting to seep into this culture. Like
into the sound itself.
Not only the sound, even the dress. I was looking at some guys on Tweede Nuwe Jaar. They are dressed like the gears are no longer baggy, big, block cut, square stuff. These guys are now tailored down to the nines. They have suits that were made by tidy ducks, and so things are changing that way.
How do you feel about it?
Somewhere along the line, that's going to become what.
That's inevitable.
That's what it's going to be.
And it doesn't have to lose its essence.
It doesn't have to lose its essence at all. I think everybody likes being cut nicely and fitted nicely into a suit. There's no reason why you still should be wearing a baggy satin block cut generic made suit, don't you think?
I'm not going to be in one of those new suits. I'm very, very sorry. I'll have mine lekker wide so I can express myself. I want to know, just you guys as young people now in management, in the direction of Carnival, do you think you are going to bring meaningful change?
I think we are. I think for once we've got people involved in Carnival who's not here to make a living out of it. We all have jobs and so forth, and we're here.
I like that.
This is a labor of love.
Okay.
You know, Clarence, I like to deal with facts, not necessarily always intellectualizing things. We here, we don't get a petrol claim back, we don't get reimbursed for our telephone calls. We're simply here to promote Carnival, and I think for the first time in the history of Carnival we have that kind of situation, and we've extended that to all of the leadership. Leadership now understand that if you're going to do this,
that
and
is
again,
so refreshing. That is so refreshing.
That's where we're at.
And may you be very, very successful. I think, Riyadh, you mentioned earlier also that you didn't have as much contestants on the streets. This is some of the fallout of COVID. But now you've got a sense. Have you got a revitalized energy for what is possible in the future?
No, for sure. We could see that on Saturday. If anyone that's listening was at AFR'ENERGY Stadium, they can tell you. That place was sold out to capacity. All the seats that we could make available in that place was sold out. We needed to close the gates. People couldn't get in anymore. CompuTicket, the portal was closed. So we can see that people are, I don't know if I can say, listening for the Klubse, listening for live events. But we can also see when we look at the troops, there is definitely harder for troop owners to put those big, massive teams out there on the street in their suits. So, yeah.
We had participation from the isiXhosa community previously. So it's not necessarily culturally exclusive. But is it ever going to be a Cape Town thing? Are we ever going to see some white participants in the Saturns?
We have enough white
Oh yeah, we see enough.
Are we changing?
We have
That's
people
wonderful.
driving down from Mossel Bay to participate in this thing.
And they sing and they know the words of the moppies and everything.
And they dance next to the beat.
I got a call from a lady from Pretoria, old lady, white auntie, and wanted to know how to find tickets, and took her through the whole process. And then luckily I bumped into this auntie on Tweede Nuwe Jaar, and she was over the moon to see me and super excited. For the first time she's down here, herself and her husband, to watch the Klubse. And then at the end of her day, she comes to find me again and says next year when she comes down, she'd like me, please give me and my husband a troop to
I think
join.
with the kind of energy that you represent and the generational perspective, there's a chance of it turning to be an inclusive kind of Rio kind of carnival. Pipe dream, what do you guys think? Is that an objective for you? More people and more inclusivity?
Yeah.
Is it possible to bring inclusivity with such an event steeped in history as it is?
I think if we stick to our plans, then certainly we can achieve that. The idea, of course, is not to turn it into another Rio, perhaps at that scale.
Can't be.
And for the benefit of our people, because this is the other fact, Clarence. This carnival has massive intrinsic value. And finally, we're seeing a cascading effect of some value coming in, and it's cascading down into the communities. This year, troops got transported to the events. In previous years, they had to make their own plans. Our first market was for free.
We have to wrap it up, unfortunately, gentlemen. But I think if you keep on that essence and the integrity, then I think the cascade is going to be an avalanche of support. We want it. We need it. It represents diversity. It is quintessential Cape Town. And just from what I'm hearing, I'm excited about the future. Thank you very much to my guest today, Munib Gambino, the chairperson of the Kaapse Klubse Carnival Association, and chairman and event director, Riyadh Peters. I think it was a great insight and an infectious energy that you brought with you. Thank you and all the best to you.
It's a pleasure.